Welcome to another G4 Guitar Teacher Hangout. My name is David Hart, and today we're going to be following our standard format, and that's asking questions and talking about problems and solutions and brainstorming and so forth. We've got David Minns here from LA, down south in Orange County. And so, David, have you got a topic or anything that you want to talk about today?
One question I do have is about how to handle siblings when there's an age difference and the parents want them in the same class.
Okay, yep. All right. And the motivation, I guess, is convenience. They don't want to have to come twice. So look, I think the only thing you can do is, and this is all I ever did, was did my best to cater for them in terms of convenience. But if I knew that it just wasn't going to work, or I would pretty well tell the parents. And most parents, and you think about it in your position, do you want me to tell you what you want to hear, or do you want me to tell you what's the truth?
Right.
And you would much prefer the truth. And even if you sign off and go, I'll go somewhere else and find someone, and people do. People will say, well, no, I'll go and find someone who can tell me what I want to hear, rather than what the truth is. But most people don't. Most people actually respect the truth. And if you say, look, you've got a 6-year-old and you've got a 12-year-old, it generally doesn't work. I won't guarantee that every case it won't work, but as a rule, the 6-year-old is going to learn differently to the 12-year-old, and putting them in the same group, it's not going to work.
Right. I mean, the case I've got at the moment is a couple of new students coming on board next week with 2 boys. One's 4 and one is 7. So okay. 4 would be the youngest I've ever taken. But 6 to 7-year-olds I've taken before, and I've always started them on the beginner's checklist. So it's kind of the same, but it's still that maturity, even that 3-year difference of maturity of conveying things. I wouldn't say concerns me. It's just an interesting topic, an interesting subject I hadn't had to deal with before.
Yeah. So 4 and 7, you're saying?
4 and 7, yeah.
Which is a big difference because it's all relative. You're talking almost twice as old. Yeah. The difference between a 10 and a 20-year-old is significant.
Exactly.
So
it's just will be like 7-year-olds. They can still follow a simple instruction of, let's say, put an example to, let's play a G chord. One thing is they can probably get there. Whereas a 4-year-old, you probably got to go around the houses a bit just to get some kind of conveyance between yourself and the student.
Exactly, and things like hand strength. The 4-year-old's just not going to have anywhere near the hand strength as 7-year-olds. Like I'm teaching my daughter Mia, who's 6 now, 6.5, and she, there's things that she does really well. But one thing like barring, for example, we're trying to play Smoke on the Water using the 2 strings, like the original recording, and she's been doing guitar now for 3 years. She still can't bar down because she just doesn't have the hand strength for those bars. But she when it comes to the fingertip, which you don't have to press as hard just because of the leverage, the physics of it, it's easier. So she can do a lot of things, but getting into bar chords, she can even hold a bar and it even looks good. It just she doesn't have the strength to hold the strings for long enough. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah. It's just an age thing. There's some things about age that are just going to take time. They're not going to be able to do. A 4-year-old can't do what a 7-year-old, and a 7-year-old can't do what a 12-year-old, etc. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So really, just to wrap up on that, it's, to me, I always just give what I think is the truth, even if it costs me in the short term. I lose a student. I would rather give the right advice and produce a successful student, even if I lose a few along the way.
Right. Got it. Okay. Cool.
Okay, so did you have any other topics? I've got a few things.
That was the only question I had. The other topic I had is maybe something I've always realized, but just sort of reaffirmed this week is talking about flyers, delivering flyers naturally, how it works from the standpoint of, how do we say it, the time it takes from getting the flyer to actually making an inquiry. I've had two examples this week. I was talking to students this week on hand who came through flyers, just asking them, hey, when you got one, was it the second flyer? Was it the first flyer? How, and in two cases, the guy who's been coming now almost a year, basically he sat on his for 4 months. Another guy sat on his for 3 months. The other guy he said it wasn't. I got the second flyer. I knew it was going to be something serious, and I just had 3 new students start today, and their parent got the flyer 6 weeks ago. So it's interesting to sort of change my, I don't know, not my expectation, but my mindset in terms of when I'm delivering flyers. It's sort of I'm paying ahead as I'm delivering them. You know, I'm not going to get a phone call within the hour. Maybe I do sometimes, but longer term, it's like we always said, you don't know which part of your marketing is working. So, you know, it could be 4 months hence when things are right for the person, you're going to get the call. So just interesting to reaffirm that, you know.
Exactly, and it really is in all marketing, and I think a lot of people really underestimate the value of marketing. They don't see the long-term share and the investment that marketing can pay off. You know,
right.
I don't think when the Beatles or the Stones or, you know, any of those guys wrote their first few songs that they would imagine today they would still be selling those songs and they would be worth millions of dollars on copyright. You know, you just, and even though it's an exaggerated example, it still happens. I'm still getting inquiries from flyers and marketing that I did 10 years ago. That's still flowing on. And it's not that I'm getting and you know, it'll happen occasionally, but it's not necessarily that I'm getting a direct inquiry from a flyer that I put in someone's letterbox 10 years ago, and then it's not like they have that flyer on their wall. What it is the branding. They saw our name 10 years ago, and then they see it again somewhere else, and they start to put it together and connect, and then it just happens. I had, you know, it wasn't that long ago, I got an email from a lady who said, I booked my first son in with you in Northbridge, with me, years ago, and my other son now wants to learn guitar. So, you know, where do we go? And I said, well, you know, I'm not there now. I'm doing other things, but I'll pass you on to the teacher in the area. So, right. It doesn't, your marketing is something that can live on for years. Coke started marketing back in the 1800s.
Right.
You know,
that's a good point. I was flyering 2 days ago, and this woman's in the driveway, and I'm always cautious when people are in the driveway in the US about this soliciting, non-soliciting. So if they seem receptive, I'll say, hey, would you care for a flyer? And she said, oh, wow. She said, yeah, I've seen this red boy before, this $99. I went, oh, really? Okay, how did you see it? And we started this dialogue, and her son's, you know, so it's really interesting how she's seen it before, and she's starting to recognize it. No call yet, but it's that brand recognition piece, which is, again, go back to last week with the red T-shirt guy on the website, which is why I wanted to put that guy back. I think it definitely helped to keep the dots consistent, so to speak. Although the look and feel is changing, it's a consistent layer. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to keep that connection, otherwise they don't. Yeah, make the association in the future. And and that was a good point you made. It's something that kind of slipped a little bit for me. It's not that I wasn't aware of it. It's just that with all the kind of getting the new websites up and going and whatever, you know, it's easy to sometimes forget those little things that can make a big difference. Yeah. You know, if you look at say McDonald's and KFC and Coke and all these big companies, they don't do less marketing now than they used to. Most of these companies are doing more marketing than they ever did, and it's not because they necessarily think that they need to. They just know the return on the investment. They know that it's such a good thing to do. So that's why your marketing, the longer you the more you invest and the longer you market for in those early years, the bigger payoff you're going to get in years to come. And I'm talking 5-10 years down the track. This is your 401k, as you call it in the US. Right. You know, you're really investing into your future. I started marketing for G4 back in 2005, and here we are today as a global kind of network. That I wasn't really thinking about it back then, but I was very aware that my marketing, that I was sticking with G4 no matter what. This was going to happen, and I was going to keep going with it for years and years to come. So I knew that every flyer that I was delivering was adding value to my brand.
Right. That's just, if we got this time. That's another thing is I'm thinking about reflyering the cycle time, and I'm thinking personally, I'm thinking about once every 4 months. So that's 3 times a year. Is that fair?
Yeah, to be honest, I really don't know what is right or wrong, because where we were, we had 5 schools, and we kind of did the flyers all around the area, and of course from all the members and the network getting all the feedback. I really haven't found, a few guys have said that, the second time round they got more response, less response, whatever, but generally we can't, it's very hard to measure whether or not, if someone gets a flyer a week later again, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, I couldn't give you a definitive answer on that. I don't have enough data or any way really that I can think of to how to measure that.
Right.
I think it's probably just different people, different things. Some people will need that close connection. Got a flyer a week ago. Oh, here's the flyer again. Okay, I might take action. Or I lost the first one. There it is. Bang. So they act. Whereas if you leave it too long, maybe they won't act, or they forget, they don't make the association. It's hard to know, yeah. But other people might find it just annoying. This guy again. It's just the third time this week. So,
right. Yeah. That's the other piece really about when the students come in. It's like, you never really know where they've come from. Was it the flyer they received, or was it the prompt they had on Facebook, or was it something else? Which was the so I just have to go with the primary one, and say, okay, I check it's Google, check the box.
Yeah, exactly. And once they start, once Facebook and Google start picking up on their behavior, then, they could come from a Facebook ad or a Google ad, but the reason they came from those ads was because they originally got your flyer, looked you up on the internet, and Google or Facebook picked up on the fact that this guy has this interest.
Right.
So there's this kind of almost stalking of, the big players in the marketing field. So it all gets mixed up. I've had, I remember lots of people saying things like, so how did you find us? I just found you on Google. Oh, okay. And then they come to the first lesson and it slips that they mentioned the flyer. And so, well, hang on, I thought you found me on Google. Well, so they're a bit confused sometimes, because what they did was they got the flyer and then they looked up on Google, and then they went from Google to contacting us.
Right.
So there's different different roads, and they get, because it's not they don't care. they just want to learn guitar, and they're just ending up somehow. So but I think we can certainly take some information. And what's really good about the flyers that I can certainly vouch for is that when I started G4, there wasn't AdWords. That wasn't happening in Australia. It was, I think it was already happening in the US. It had just been launched, I think 2004 or something. AdWords was launched, and I started in 2005 with G4, but no one that I knew in Australia was using AdWords or was even aware of it. So I spent really that first year, when I really built the business up from 0 to 100 whatever, that in that time it was pretty well just all flyers. We did put some newspaper ads in, but I was very, very kind of cautious about the newspaper ads because they're very expensive. And I also knew exactly who was coming from the newspaper. It was very easy to work out who was coming from where. And I don't think I did any newspaper for at least the first 6 months. It was purely flyers for the first 6 months because I had no money. So I simply hit the street with the flyer. And so I know they absolutely work. That's why I really, all big on the flyers. So.
Cool.
Okay, great. Yeah. Just to end that conversation, or to finalize it, I really think that the difference between people who succeed in business and those who fail is the understanding of the value of marketing. And most people have this short-term kind of approach to their business and marketing. If the advertising doesn't work this week, it's failed. It doesn't work. And I understand that, because it's very dangerous to be investing in something long term. You think about the Yellow Pages, how they used to sign you up $5,000 for the year, and what if it doesn't work? And a lot of people had that problem. They would invest in a big ad in the Yellow Pages and got nothing for it. Other people got tons of calls from it. It worked really well. So, and I think it just depends on the business and the area and lots of other factors. But it's a big gamble. Whereas so when you're advertising in anything that doesn't have that immediate payoff, it's very hard to value it long term.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that it's on going back to the Facebook thing, it's kind of an unnecessary evil. I think you've got to have a Facebook presence of some description, regardless of whether it actually drives anything, because it's just that presence you need to actually have the sort of business credibility, because it's where most people go to. It's almost a cost of doing business. You have to have a Facebook presence. It's a question of how do you do it, and what cost do you want to put around it? Because anyway, so that's why I'm playing with these ads, see which is the best. Which one to go with. Do I promote the contact? The call to action button. I'm messing around with stuff like that. Fine. Okay, what's the most cost effective cost of doing business on Facebook?
Yeah, and I'll absolutely back that up, because if you look at the statistics, that Facebook, as far as time spent online, far outweighs anything else. There's not even a close second. People could say Google, but you think about it. People sit on Facebook, they chat, they look at their whatever's, they're in groups, they're having all sorts of conversations in Facebook, whereas they go to Google to search for something, find what they want, and then they're out of there again. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, right. Because Google doesn't present you anything unless you're looking for it, whereas Facebook will prompt you if you're in the demographic. Oh, yeah. So that prompts. Can I ask another question on the Facebook topic?
Yeah, absolutely.
So prescribing the demographic. The way I've set it up for is obviously my concentric circle area geographically, but then I've gone for the parents, anybody sort of 4 years upwards into teen and older. But I'm not sure whether by setting it up for parents, targeting parents, whether I am precluding anybody else that is sort of a younger person who wants to do it that's not a parent. I can't figure out how to get a secondary demographic in there. Whether it's if I go for parents across the board, is that ad just for parents? And then I should do a second one, which would be maybe on household income and whether they're a homeowner, and run two. Is it kind of like that? You kind of have one all-income. I can't figure out how to get one all-encompassing ad that grabs everybody.
Yeah, I think ideally you want different ads for different people, definitely, for different demographics. And you also need to send them to a landing page that is relevant for who they are. So that's what I would, if you go to your website now, if you make a second landing page and set up for those demographics, what I would do is I would have the main page for the main demographic, which we know is the one that we want, which is parents with children, especially younger children, because that's where you're really going to find most of your students and the long-term students and build school, the whole thing, as we've spoken about. But if you want to capture others like teenagers or adults, and it seems to be that the teenage market is the smallest market these days, because there are a lot of adults who want to learn guitar and are happy to pay.
I think you're more to young single adults, sort of speak, maybe even, I don't know, that's sort of up to say, 45 single adults. That's a big market.
I think it's huge, and they've got the money, they've got the time because they're single. They also look at guitar as something that, it's a bit of something cool to do, it's part of their personality. Whereas, once they get married, I think once they get married and start having children, they're the ones who aren't going to stick around for very long because they get too busy. They've got too many other things going on. There's also the retirees as well, which is another market, which is actually quite strong.
Yeah, I've got 3 retirees.
Yeah.
They take something to do, and they've been here about 8-9 months now.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got these distinct markets. We've got the young kids. We've got the singles sort of 20s to 40s, and then we've got the retirees, and they're I guess would be the 3 main markets. And you would want an ad and a landing page for each of those markets. So when they get to because I do see sometimes we get these questions of, do you teach adults? Because we teach kids, and that's what we're appealing to. But what you want is that ad. If you want those adults or you want that market, then you need to have the right kind of ads to and the right pages.
So in that case, you would need a different, maybe not the red T-shirt guy. Maybe something else on the Facebook ad for that, and then a secondary landing page on the website. Yeah. Then the secondary landing page would be accessible to the ad people, but you wouldn't want it on the website for general consumption. You'd have to put it somewhere else.
Exactly. They don't have to be visible.
Right.
None of your landing pages have to be visible, and they can be just on your website, but not on your menu.
Yeah, exactly. But then all the header links link to all the other ones as well.
Yeah, that's right. That still get. I think you've got an option there to turn those headers off anyway if you wanted to. If you want to have, you definitely have that option where you can have there's nothing other than just what you want to do, which is the ideal. Even our websites, even though they're set up really well, they're kind of a little bit of a balance between the ideal landing page and what you teachers want to have on your page, such as page,
almost a secondary landing page will always be directly to a contact page.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, the perfect landing page has one action. That's it. There's only one thing to do when you get to this page, and it's either fill in the form or give us a call, download, watch a video. There should be one action on a page for the ideal. Yeah, it keeps things very simple.
Okay, I've got myself another project. Okay,
excellent. Yeah, and it's the thing I sort of come back to is that you just got to decide within your area, because you're working on a local area, how much time you've got and where the best use of your time is. Because when you start to work with smaller demographics, or your time is limited, you have to do the 80-20, and that's where, should I focus on retirees or should I focus on kids? And really, your kids are going to be a better investment of your time if your time is limited, which is
for sure. Yeah,
but it doesn't mean don't not do it. Just keep that in mind. That's all. Yeah.
Right.
Everything shouldn't be. As I say in business, it's not like your children. You're not sharing your time evenly across your children. Your business, you've got to have favorites. You've got to know where your time is going to give you your best return, and that will share. And it's not that you completely neglect other areas, but you need to work out where you should be spending most of your time.
Yeah. Got it. Okay, very cool.
Okay, cool. So the other thing I was really going to talk about today, there was a couple of things, but we're talking a lot lately about the E-Myth and how it's sort of in business, and I think it's really good to look at how I do that. And I think for you guys, you don't have a lot of the kind of you haven't seen behind the scenes a lot of what I do and how I operate and how I've been using the E-Myth for years to navigate my own business and build what I've done. And so I thought, let me go through some of that and how I've done it and what I've done to do that. So one of the most important habits that I have, which I think that is, I recommend for anyone to do in business, is that whenever you get a question or a problem, you should somehow systemize the solution. So for example, in my case, if one of you guys sent me an email, how do I set up a Facebook ad? Now I can just reply to you and go, well, go here, go there, bang. And then a week later, I get another one of you guys go, how do I do a Facebook ad? Again, I go, bang. So here's something that I'm going to have to repeat. So it's better for me to say, okay, when I get that question, I'm now going to put it into a step-by-step on a web page. I can do a video, whatever. And then what I do is the next time the second person asks, I just direct them straight to that page rather than having to go through it with each one. And that's a habit I've been doing for a long time. And if you really, when you look at the G4 guitar method, that was a system of how do I give the students what they need and want in a systemized way. So I'm not having to write notes all the time, which is what I was doing and most teachers do in every lesson, writing. Now, what the G4 guitar method allowed me to do was to free up that, so I didn't have to write lots of notes. Everything was there. And not only did it make my life easier as a teacher, it made it more efficient for the students. The students were able to learn more easily and follow those steps. So that's where I've applied the E-Myth with the method. But in terms of applying it to the actual business, then that's where we've got a couple of the guys have asked, do we have a manual, a G4 guitar, like the E-Myth talks about having an operator's manual. And I'm not sure some of them actually get the fact that our member site is the online manual. That's the operator manual. That's where everything is that you need to do. And the problem with that operator's manual, and it's a bit like if you look at the McDonald's one, it's it's this thick. But the problem is there is a lot of information in there now, so it's just a trick of finding what you want. But if I had to put that all together, if you look at the G4 member site now, if I had to put everything together, like the method and the online member site, all that together, it's I don't know, 1,000 hours, 2,000 hours worth of work. There's a lot of time in putting that together, because it's not just a simple matter. Sometimes when we read something, it's like reading someone's book. They've written this novel, and you read it, and you think the time it took them to read it or to write it is the same time it takes you to read it. I don't know why, but our brains tend to think that the person wrote it in flow. But the truth is that the person probably wrote that book over a year or 2 years, sometimes 10 years it takes people to write books. So that's where the E-Myth philosophy comes in. So maybe just to sort of ask you, David, how do you apply it in your own business at all?
To a degree, yeah. I've got over the last week, I've started using Google Forms.
Okay.
Just as an example. So I'll create a simple Google form, which basically has a question and answer section. So when I get an inquiry, I just walk down the page, put my answer to questions in, and that populates a spreadsheet with everything I need to know. And then once every couple of weeks, I basically just macro it straight into MailChimp, so to speak. So it automatically populates the mail list and things. But I sort of in advance of the system you're coming out with, just went through the questionnaires I've seen, for onboarding students and inquiries that you've had and other people have had, and just sort of systemized it into a form. And that's now what I use. Everything at inquiry, I just step through it, bang, bang, bang. In fact, my wife could actually take an inquiry because it steps her through what questions to ask with a hint at the bottom, age group, etc. And so that was my thought. How can I have somebody else take these inquiries?
That's the test. That if you can hand it to someone else who, especially someone who has no real knowledge of what you're doing, and they can do at least the administration part. There's always, as Gerber talks about, there are positions where someone needs to have the knowledge and skill. So she can't teach.
I haven't done it yet, but that was my thought process going into it. How could I do that if I wanted somebody else to actually take calls for me, or if I'm not around, the phone rings, what do I do?
Yeah. Because you're basically trying to copy yourself. How can you make a copy of yourself, clone yourself? Right. And that's every job you do, you want to ask yourself, how can I clone myself? Because even though I'm still here, and I will be here for a long time, what I am not here for are many of the jobs that I used to do as I sort of stepped up. Right now in the background, Size is doing my accounts. She's making up, she's fixing the websites. She's doing some graphic design work as well for me. Like if you guys need a sign or something, I'll get her to make it up. So there, you know what I mean? I've created these systems. So even if she drops out of the picture, which I hope she won't, Sizer, if you're watching this, there's somebody else who can just follow the steps. So I don't give her anything that's not systemized step by step. And I think that's really important. And, I don't know, I was guilty of it, but, I don't know how many business owners I've spoken to who say, oh, I just spent 6 months training this person and then they just left for another job. Or worse, they opened up in competition down the road to me. Now they're taking my clients. What that kind of feeling of you've invested a lot of time into someone, it comes from the fact that you haven't created systems, you've trained a person, and that person is gone now. They've system, so they've left. So your goal should always be to create the system, and then the people should be able to operate the systems.
Right.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
I was in a very interesting, and I'll kind of share this with you as well. I do this mastermind group with other guys, other entrepreneurs who are doing online business in the music thing. And what we do is we have these monthly mastermind groups where we just talk and kind of share ideas. And there's basically we were talking about how the different types of businesses that you can have. And one of them was talk about how he sells his product for, whatever, $500. You buy it and you get a lifetime membership. And one of the other guys was saying he does subscriptions, and then we were sort of talking about the different options and the different ways to do things. And the subscription side of it, and this is the kind of the point that we got to, is that you don't want to, well, when you create a situation where people just buy a one-off from you and that's it, then what that does is it puts you into this mode of always trying to sell and always trying to market. And you do need to market your business, of course, and you do need to sell. There's always going to be a certain amount of turnover. You're not going to ever get away from that totally. But when your business is focused on selling a one-off product, which is what a lot of companies do, just one-off with no return business, no repeat business, then you don't focus on developing your product. So where this one guy was saying he was selling lifetime memberships to his website, they get access to everything from here on in, then there's no incentive for him to improve that product for his current clients, because they're not paying any more money. And that's where I think, that's part of what G4 is about, is that the incentive for you when you have subscriptions, which is what you do with your students, is to keep improving the situation for your current students. And my real point here that I think is often missing in many businesses is you need to start, your most important people are the people you have now, not the students that you're out there chasing, not the next student. It's got to be the student you have. And I go to lots of these marketing seminars, and I think, this is one of the reasons I recommend getting educated and having mentors and doing other programs. But a lot of the time we think, it could be a waste of money, or I know what that person knows, or they're not going to tell me anything new. But just being the student or being the client, especially when you're paying a lot of money, it really gives you perspective, and you start to see, well, I'm paying a lot of money for this, but I don't see the value that this particular person's giving me, or I can see the problem here. And to give you an example, like I said, I go to quite a few of these marketing seminars, and I'm often surprised by the lack of follow-up and the lack of interest in me. It seems like that they're really just interested in their own program, or telling you a bit about selling or the latest Facebook techniques, but there's not a lot of interest in me, and I'm potentially worth thousands and thousands of dollars to them, and they're more interested in doing more Facebook marketing and finding new clients or selling more product. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely,
yeah. So sure. One of the things I learned from Jay Abraham, which is kind of what I'm getting at here, is the value and the enormous value of the clients you already have. And if you see Jay, you spend a few days with Jay, you start to really wake up to how much money you're leaving on the table and how underserviced your own clients are. So let's play with this for a bit, and I'll just show you how it works. So let's say you've got 20 students. I can't remember exactly how many students, but we'll just say, for instance, you've got 20 students. If you think about the time and investment it's going to take to find 20 more students, then if you just took a portion of that time, even 20% of that time, and invested it back into your current students, how much time would that be? Just a guess.
I guess. I don't know.
How many hours does it take in flyers to get one student?
I would say one student, probably about, let's see, so 10 hours.
Okay, cool. All right, so 10 hours. So to get 20 students,
200 hours.
200 hours, right? So just take 20% of that, not the whole 200. We'll just take 20% of that, so we end up with 40 hours. What could you do with 40 hours for your current students right now? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could do so much for your current students just with 20%. And even though, and as we were talking about with the marketing before, about the fact that most people in business undervalue marketing and the raw potential. This is what we call internal marketing. So internally marketing your current students, marketing to them. So think about what you could do with 40 hours for your current students that would increase their loyalty, so they stay longer. They increase their spend, so they spend more, and increase their referral rate, so they actually introduce more customers to you. If you can think about that, then you will start to see how you can exponentially grow your business without the need for chasing more students. I'm not saying that we don't stop. All I'm saying is take 20% of that now and put it into your current students. Just do it as an exercise, and you'll see some amazing things happen. Right. I've just spent, and as you know, and still haven't quite finished the other books yet, but I've just spent, probably the equivalent of 30 or 40 hours updating the G4 Guitar Method, just the different books and whatever, changing the fonts and getting it all up and fresh and looking, and now changing the format. So we're going to have each level in one level, so level 1, level 2, level 3 all together. And it would have been very easy for me to say, don't worry about that. I'd rather spend this time marketing, going and looking for more clients. But I know by looking after you guys first and foremost, then you're going to be around longer, you're going to be happy, you're going to do better in your businesses, which is really, everything's going to start to work better. So that's where that internal marketing, product development, R&D. One of the companies who did this very well, as we would know as guitar players, which were the best pedals, probably still are the best pedals, which were the best foot pedals, effects pedals?
Over history, probably Boss.
Exactly. And why? Why were they the best?
They had the widest market share.
Yeah, but they were solid, right? They didn't break. They
were solid. They hit the right. They had the right. They hit the right spot in the market between cost, functionality, and reliability.
Exactly. Yeah.
Everybody could just. They were affordable for the majority of people.
Yep, they were a bit more expensive than the average kind of ones around. The Digitechs and all that, they were a little bit more expensive than that, but they seemed stronger, more robust, and definitely worth the extra money. And Roland, who obviously were behind Boss, they invested more in R&D than most companies. And I'm talking most companies generally, full stop. They're a Japanese company, but their investment in R&D, which is internal marketing, that's where they were putting a lot of their money. And that is a trend that's going on today, where companies more and more investing their advertising dollars, their marketing dollars, into developing their products and to developing their relationships with their current clients rather than constantly chasing new clients.
Right.
So yeah, something to keep in mind. So as an exercise for yourself, try and think of some things that you can do for your current students that will give them extra value, will give them that sort of something that they don't expect. You don't want them thinking that this is something you're going to give them every week or that it's part of the program. What you want to do is give them this extra value, so almost like surprises as a gift, and they, oh wow, this is great, excellent. So it's the same with, again, with me. There's no obligation for me to do these hangouts. There's no obligation for me to upgrade the websites, as we recently did, to add Thrive. There's no obligation for me to do those things. It wasn't in the original agreement. But by doing those things, I know that I'm helping you guys to improve and be more successful. Because the more successful you are, I just see it as trickling down. The more successful I'm going to be. It's just that you go together. So are there any, like with your current students, can you think of anything that you could do that you would spend your time doing to help?
Well, originally, I've pushed basically free restringing for the guitars for the students, and pushed that a little bit.
So let's put that in perspective. We'll just touch on that for a minute.
Sure.
Do you say, hey, I do free restrings for students, or do you say, hey, I'll restring your guitar for free for you as a gesture rather than as an advertisement posters type?
I've done both. So, for example, I had a student this evening, and his guitar needs he's got a peak trend strat. He needs a restring, needs complete new setup, the intonation, the whole action needs doing. I said, look, let me have the guitar. I can lend you one of mine for the week. Here it is. Bring it next week. I'll take it. You'll get it back. It'll be good. You know, it's going to take me an hour and a half to do it, something like that. So yeah. I'm looking. I do that a few times for people when the guitars need stringing, as an example.
Excellent, excellent. And you know, you could run a workshop on that as well. Just say to all students, come along and teach you all how to restring guitars,
right?
And yeah, and how to keep them playing well and set up, and you know, things like having a tuning workshop, teaching. You know, it's such a basic thing, but I remember struggling with it in my first year of learning. It was, especially, you know, when you start a bit later, really getting your ear to hear the notes is a struggle. And so, yeah, run a workshop and say, I'm going to show you guys how you learn to tune a guitar, and it'll be easier than you think. So, yeah, that's great. Anything else?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay, cool. So,
sorry, but the only thing that did come to me was, was I recently pushed a newsletter out to basically alumni people that had previously enrolled and they'd fallen away, offering them basically 6 weeks for $99.
Okay. Yep. All right. Cool.
And out of the 8 people that opened the email, I picked up an extra student.
Excellent.
And they're good odds. Yeah. So, but it's only to those people that have been here before. They know the thing. I'm thinking 5 for $99. Let's give them 6, something special, and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. So, which is great, and that comes under the category of marketing. So kind of external marketing, but that's really good. So to kind of keep thinking, and I think once you get on this train of thought, you'll start to think out of the, you know, coming out of the box. Think things like having, you know, you could make up some T-shirts to give to your students. You could give them pics. You know, you might do some extra. Do your own book, which you give exclusive to your students. So I sell this online for $20, but for you guys, I'm going to give you all a copy. You know, you've already done some videos, which are great. That's already adding value for your students. It could be doing requests every now and again, like what song do you want to learn? Thinking about what song do you really want to play? You know, maybe I can put together a simple version of it. And even though this feels more work, it's not something you're going to have to keep doing forever, because what happens is that it's really about building that loyalty amongst your early students. And also, as you start to leverage, which is your group teaching, then you really have more headroom. You're making more money. There's more profit in your business because your standard program is leveraging. It's group. So if I go to an example such as a gym, and you know, I belong to a gym here. It's a 24-hour gym. You go in and out whenever you want, and they have very low overheads when you think about it, because most of the time it's not even anyone there. It's just the setup of the equipment. So and they don't really do anything to add value. And I'm thinking, if a competitor came to town, you know, Kansas is not a big place, so they're probably not going to get any major competitors here. But if a competitor did come to town, it wouldn't take much for that competitor to steal the business away, because I don't feel anything other than the equipment's okay. You know, everything works okay, it's fine, but there's nothing there that's kind of adding value for me. And that's where you can really make a difference to your students, and that extra value, that it's about building more loyalty, and not just to serve you, but to help them, because the longer that they stay engaged in their lessons, the more likely they are to succeed on guitar. And that's the bottom line.
Yeah. I mean, they do your point. I mean, the YouTube thing, I mean, I've got like this, I think it's 85 videos now on my site. And it's just, it's much easier now to produce them, but also the fact that they just keep turning around. And particularly for parents like it a lot. Yeah, you know, and the amount of goodwill that comes through that, which is good, and the shares which I see going on are kind of paying forward.
Yeah, that's it. You're getting the value out of it, and look, you've got 85 already, which is fantastic. You know, they're the kind of things that are going to. If you say to someone who's signing up, who's just joining, that, hey, there's also 85 videos that you can go and watch on previous, topics and so forth.
Right.
Some of them you understand, some of them you won't. They're like, oh, wow, cool, yeah. And they already know you, they know your style. They're a fan.
Yeah, the other thing that occurs to me today with new students starting was, they're in different playlists and things. So I was to group all the videos into a level 1 playlist. So here's your playlist of all the lessons for lesson 1, picking chords, arpeggios, the whole 9 yards, and group in different playlists. Therefore, for every level comes in, here's your playlist, here's your playlist, here's your playlist. Slam dunk. I mean, it's done.
Easy, and it's you. That's the important thing. It's they're getting more of you, because the brain, even though logically we can see the difference, the brain actually doesn't always know the difference. I get guys that I talk to here who have seen some of my videos, and they come on like they know me. Do you know what I mean? It's like they already know who I am. Whereas I don't know anything about them. I'm just learning about them. But in your case, when they're at home and they're watching a video of you, maybe a couple of videos during the week, then they're feeling like they're getting more than a half an hour lesson. They feel like, I've just had 2 hours of time with you this week. That's
right.
How it feels to them, and that's the leveraging. And still, most teachers aren't doing it. Most guitar teachers aren't putting up those videos and sharing them with their students.
Yeah. The other thing I found, which is a big success, is with students who are having a particular trouble with something and they can't remember, is grab the iPhone, shoot a quick video of it, throw it up on YouTube, and share it privately with them, and they've got it by the time they've got home.
Excellent.
It's a no-brainer to do. It's so simple.
Yeah.
Great. If it's good enough, you make it public. If it's not, you leave it private or unlisted, and they just have it.
Yeah, that's great. So you can see, once you start thinking about the ideas, they start to come. You'll find more and more ideas of how you can do things and leverage. Now you've got the videos. Of course, it's the same with me with these videos. Part of it is finding what you want, because I've got close to how many videos you've got, like 80 videos. But to tell you that, hey, I've got 80 videos, David, it's like, well, that's great, but how do I find what I want to find? So the next step is obviously to, again, internal marketing or servicing, product development, is to sort of add a system that'll make it easy to find exactly what you want, rather than having to.
It's almost with YouTube, because they've just got a horrible way of doing their playlists. It's almost that you want a secondary website where you can actually organize the videos more systematically, because YouTube just doesn't do it. It's a really nice way they have it,
Yeah, they're not at that point. I mean, they've got some good editing tools now, but there's still some work to do there. And that's part of what I'm doing, with the system setup, that the application I'm making for the teachers, that'll include some of that, where it'll make it easy to find things. Everything, all the videos will be in a database, and you'll be able to quickly call up the ones you want. If you want a marketing video on Facebook, just click, marketing Facebook, and it'll bring up it'll bring the links to those videos. So you'll go straight to the video.
Cool.
Yeah. So I think that's key to it, is helping students find what they want. And it doesn't even have to be your information, by the way. If you can help students find other people's websites, it could be how to learn particular songs. If there's a certain popular song, someone else is teaching it, who does it really well. It's much nicer if they can get a link from you rather than having to scroll through the internet themselves. So.
Yeah. So I mean, another thing is I'll go out and look at anything we got in our network that's a song. And put that into the playlist. If not, I go and grab somebody else's and throw it in there. So and also include, so for example, let's take Mission Impossible. Go and grab the original theme tune, throw that in the playlist, and line them up next to each other. They've got something to listen to alongside. So they haven't got to hunt around for it. It's just there. Yeah,
fantastic. And that's the value for them. You see, it's because sometimes people say things like, "Oh yeah, but it's all free." That's free. They can find that video themselves. They can do this and do that. Yeah, they can, but time is money. And what we are specialists in learning guitar. What we're trying to do is make the guitar learning process less time consuming and get them right down to what to do. So if any successful business person successful people full stop understands the principle of, is it worth my time? Is this something that I can pay someone less than my time is worth to do? If it is, then I'll pay them to do it. So if I come to you, if I want to learn a song, even at it doesn't matter, even at my level, at your level, sometimes it's easier just to go to someone else who already knows the song really well and pay them to show you, because it's a lot quicker than trying to work it out yourself.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it's just that logic thinking of what's the quickest way to do things. And that's part of what G4 is about. Sometimes it's quicker just to pop me an email and say, even though you can do your own search on Google, sometimes if you just send me an email because you know I've done it before, or you put it into our group because you know someone else has done it before, then you can just say, hey, does anyone know how to do this? Bang. And this is how I've been doing the programming that I'm doing at the moment. I've been learning programming. There's a forum that I've joined, and you've got to actually own the program to join this forum. But basically, the guys in there who have been using it for years are really smart. And rather than me trying to find videos on it and trying to work it out, I just type in the question, how do I do this? And bang, 3 or 4 experts answer me and tell me how it's done. So why would I waste my time trying to work it out?
Yeah, exactly. No, that's great.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll wrap it up there. We've done an hour, which is great, and we always seem to manage to come up with lots to talk about.
Yeah, I do.
All right, so yeah, I shall see you. Sorry, I meant to say next week. No hangout because I'll be in Sydney. I'll be hanging out with the guys in person in Sydney. So yeah, we'll skip next week, but the week after, back on track.
Good. Have safe travels.
Will do. Thanks, David.
All right, take care. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.